After more than 7 hours of delays due to court appeals that went up to the Supreme Court, Dustin John Higgs died by lethal injection at the Terre Haute Federal Prison at 1:23 a.m. While there is more than one piece of legislation going through the State House during this special session, Senate Bill 1 regarding abortion in the state of Indiana, certainly the one that's bringing the most passion and protest to the State House. Over 5 years ago, we began reporting on a Senate bill at the Indiana State House aiming to bring a casino license to Vigo County. Now, we're just under 48 hours from the grand opening of the Terre Haute Casino Resort. Today, the Indiana Gaming Commission met and heard presentations from 4 companies vying for that casino license. Then they narrowed it down to 2 finalists, Full House Resorts and Churchill Downs, and then made that final vote in favor of Churchill. According to INDOT data, every day an average of 33,600 vehicles pass between exit 7 and exit 11. Now, of those, 18,600 are cars and 13,000 are trucks. In 2019, Ascent 121, an Indiana agency that specializes in working with sex trafficking survivors, reported providing services for 117 minors. That's 77 more cases than were reported to the national hotline. We want to welcome you to Turn 1 here at Churchill Downs. You can just feel the energy here, and you can feel the history, too. This is the 149th running of the Kentucky Derby this weekend. Of course, Oaks Day happening today. So much history here. But we know that Terre Haute and the Wabash Valley are tied to the future of Churchill Downs and the Terre Haute. We're preparing for the Terre Haute Solar Eclipse Festival happening today from 11 o'clock to 4 o'clock right here along Wabash Avenue. Tens of thousands of people expected to visit Terre Haute for this once-in-a-lifetime experience. Hinkle Fieldhouse tonight filled with so much Sycamore pride. And there's nothing like the pride of a parent, right? So joining me right now, Tiffany Bledson, Ray Swope, of course, Xavier and Isaiah, 2 of the heartbeats of the Sycamore squad. Over 2 decades, West Lafayette, and Tippecanoe County leaders have worked to develop the Wabash Riverfront. Now they have a Wabash Riverfront district and a lot of quality of life amenities in place for the people of this community. Crazy weather that we've been having today may have dampened the roads, but it didn't dampen the spirit or the turnout at the Holman Center today. The session has to come to a close at the end of this month, so there's about a week and a half left for the conference committee to decide on this reconciled bill. The reckless homicide case surrounding Garrett's death has long since passed, but Jana Sullivan believes there is a systemic change needed in Indiana when it comes to the charge of reckless homicide and its related penalties. Her frustration stems from her own experience, but it also speaks to a bigger call to action to help other families.
Missing my son is an active part of every day of my life.
Nearly 6 years ago, Jana Sullivan lost her son, Garrett Sands, in a shooting incident at a home in Terre Haute. Garrett's death became the center of a reckless homicide case in Vigo County.
I didn't know what reckless homicide was exactly, but I learned quickly what it was and what it wasn't.
Reckless homicide, at the time of Garrett's death in 2018, and still today, is a level 5 felony in Indiana.
So that means that the penalty range is 1 year to 6 years. And really the 6 years is not the advisory. So what that means is the person that committed the crime has to have a previous criminal record and other factors have to exist, or they'll never even get the 6 years.
Other crimes that fall under a level 5 felony charge include robbery, burglary, dealing in cocaine, and dealing in methamphetamine.
How can one's life be the equivalent of selling meth? Somehow, reckless homicide has fallen through the cracks of level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can only go down to 6, and it hovers right there above 6 at almost nothing.
In 2019, Jana and Vigo County Prosecutor Terry Modisett both testified at the Indiana State House in an attempt to get reckless homicide moved to a higher felony level.
I had testified in front of the Legislative Committee previously and argued that it should be raised to a level 4. And a level 4, the penalties are 2 years from 12 years. I mean, my personal feelings are it should even be raised to a higher level, but at least that's a good step to move it up 1 right now.
Modisett said some public defenders and others who want the felony charge to stay as is argue deaths falling under the reckless homicide category lack intention.
My argument was that anytime a life is taken as a result of you committing a crime, that it's ridiculous that the most you could get would be 6 years.
Jana said part of her motivation for still fighting to change Indiana's reckless homicide law is to provide insight into how a trial can unfold for a victim's family.
Court is a long road, and the days that I would go in there and I would have to have my strength about me to just go and sit in the courtroom, it was extremely draining. People think, maybe from watching TV, how the law is done, and what we learned is it's not at all what we thought it was going to be. It's not at all done like we thought it was going to be done. And from messages that I received on Facebook, people saying things to me like, well, get a change of venue, and you can't just do that. It's not like that. And what you get is what you get, and all you can do is fight for more.
And Jana has fought, both to keep Garrett's memory alive and to bring justice to other families who lose loved ones.
As a mother of a victim of reckless homicide, I should never, ever have had to fight so hard for something to be done for my son's death and for what it left us with. You shouldn't have to campaign for justice, shouldn't have to rent billboards, shouldn't have to do protests. My son's life mattered. My son worked very hard to be the young man that he was, and he was almost 18. He worked very hard, and that was taken away from him, just so senselessly taken away from him. That should matter.
And while there are not currently any bills being proposed at the Indiana State House regarding changes to the reckless homicide categorization, Modisett does encourage community members, if they feel so moved, to reach out to their local legislators about any desired changes to Indiana law. Dana.
No.
Well, we were the first to bring you the recent news of Churchill Downs filing to build the Queen of Terre Haute Casino on the city's east side. The casino will be the company's first in Indiana, but many people already know the name Churchill Downs thanks to the Kentucky Derby. I traveled to Louisville late last month to the heart of Churchill Downs. It all began with the Kentucky Derby 150 years ago, and during our exclusive tour, our team learned how the success of that facility and the company's already established casinos across the country will translate to Terre Haute. Take a look.
I'm extremely excited about this project.
It won't be long before Churchill Downs begins construction on the Queen of Terre Haute Casino, most likely on the city's east side. To learn more about the company, we traveled down to Louisville and the heart of Churchill Downs. Although the Queen of Terre Haute won't be equestrian focused, executives with Churchill Downs say every property the company owns harkens back to here, where it all began with the Kentucky Derby.
What we know we can bring to Terre Haute that we've brought to the Kentucky Derby is that sense of keeping our finger on the pulse, keeping our guests happy, and really listening to them and evolving and creating experiences that grow with them and grow with the time. What we really hope to do is to create that Kentucky Derby-like bucket list experience in Terre Haute, Indiana.
Churchill executives spent time in Terre Haute to learn what aspects of the city's culture should be included in the project.
As we looked at different imagery around town, you'll start to see that pop up in the artwork around the property. You'll see it in the hotel rooms, you'll see it in the lobbies and some of the pathways around. We knew we wanted to have the state of Indiana reflected in the logo, you know, some of the imagery, the queen, the crown, and so the logo just kept evolving over time. And then at Crossroads Sports Bar, you know, we talked about Highway 40 and 41, and that's the Crossroads of America, so we thought, okay, I have to use that. And for the steakhouse, we weren't sure what to call it, but as I did more research, turns out in the late 1800s, there was a racetrack there called the Four-Cornered Racetrack, and there was a world champion horse that set a world record there. I said, well, okay, I've got to use that.
The casino layout, which is similar to the Derby City gaming facility we toured in Louisville, is designed with guests in mind.
If you walk our floor, you'll feel that we take a lot of pride, and we take our time in laying out the floor in a way that's appealing to our guests. I will say, we're sitting at our center bar here. I know that there's going to be a similar concept at Terre Haute. That's something that's worked well for us, and that's why we continue to replicate it.
We don't do traditional rows and rows of slot machines. The traditional slot bank is 6 to 8 games long, and they just put them in row after row after row. What we typically do is take people on a journey with a meandering pathway through the floor plan.
Food options at the casino will be carefully chosen by the Churchill team.
And what we'll start to do is focus on what's available locally in terms of food and where's the gap and where can we fill the gap. We know what typically our casino guests like, but I want to tailor it to what Terre Haute wants and what Terre Haute needs.
And the property's hotel will offer many options for local and out-of-town guests.
So we have many levels of rooms where people can progress to. If you come in with a standard room, then maybe you go to a junior suite, and then a corner suite, and then a super suite, and then with any luck you end up in the presidential.
Churchill execs say collaboration with Terre Haute leaders was essential through the planning process.
And we talked a lot about the folks with the convention center, and we want to supplement what they're doing. We don't want to compete with them. So our room is going to be limited to 500 seats.
And that collaboration won't end once the Queen of Terre Haute is in operation.
So from the beginning of this project, that's been one of the things that we've been most excited about, is an opportunity to support Vigo County Terre Haute nonprofits and to support the Vigo County Community Plan for 2025. We, as a company that's going to come in, can tangibly support that plan and support it with real money, with $3-4 million a year that we think this property is going to contribute to local nonprofits, to supporting that local community development plan.
We're building this for the folks in the Terre Haute region. This isn't a Churchill Downs monument we're putting in there. This is going to be part of the fabric of the community.
And there's no word yet on a groundbreaking date for the Queen of Terre Haute. We'll continue to follow the latest, though, in this casino project process.